There we go. All right. So this is actually one of my favorite topics, if not my favorite topic to talk about, is networking, and not just networking, but relational networking. Again, if you guys have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Hit the hand raise button there on the screen, and I will be able to see it, and we can stop and discuss questions as we go along here. But anyway, so if you guys don't know, I want to kind of start tonight off by telling you what 150 Connect means, because it really comes down to this subject here, and that is connecting with other people. So if you guys don't know about the Dunbar number is what inspired the name 150 Connect. And what the Dunbar number is, it was a British scientist who had spent years studying human sociology, or human anthropology. There we go. So he was studying human anthropology, and he studied it for as far back as you could get historical records for, right? And what he wanted to learn several basic things, but one of the biggest questions he had is, according to the size of the human brain, how many relationships can one person maintain at any one time? How many relationships can any person maintain at any one time? And the average turned out to be about 150 relationships. And he got that from the Indian villages that we have records of. He got that from just communities, like little towns, in little towns the size of churches, that kind of stuff. And he put together surveys of people in this day and age, and try to figure out what is your connection. What is the amount of relationships that any person can maintain at any one time? And the average number is 150. Okay. Now, when you look at that 150, those 150 closest relationships that you have, the ones that you can maintain, that is where you're going to get your community from. That is where you're going to get your security from, and a lot of times that's where you're going to get your longevity from. If you're hanging around a bunch of people who have some bad either eating habits or are extreme risk takers, your lifespan might not be that long. When it comes down to it. And what we wanted to do with 150 Connect is we wanted to be able to help you expand that your current amount of connection. So if you only have 75 relationships that you have right now, well, we want to help you develop the other 75. Or if you have 150 relationships right now already, but 80 of them are not that great, we want to be able to help you increase the quality of your relationships, not just the quantity of your relationships. And that's really what this lesson is all about here, is how networking really expands the quality of your relationships. And by the way, the quality of your relationships determine more than anything else the quality of your life. Okay? That's not on the workbook, but you should write that down. The quality of your relationships determine the quality of your life more than almost any other thing. It's the people you associate with. And so that's why I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this topic here. And as you see on the page, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about, what is networking really? All right, there's a lot of ideas that float around out there. How relationships work. Okay. We'll talk about this in a minute, but I don't want you guys to think of networking as, hey, I just want to go out and get a bunch of contacts. I don't want you to think about networking like that. I want you to start thinking about developing professional relationships when you're out there networking with people, okay? How to start making new friends, and of course, how to follow up, all right? We're going to jump in here. Whoop, wrong way. So we're going to start out with some quotes about networking here real fast. More business is done over lunch and dinner, and yet there are no MBA programs given on the subject. That's Peter Drucker. So listen to that again. More business decisions are done over lunch and dinner, and yet there are no MBA programs given on the subject. You know, I had a friend of mine who had a different quote. He said, work is done at the office, but business is done at the golf courses and the coffee shops of the world. Does that make sense? Work is done at the office, but business is done in the golf courses and coffee shops of the world. Listen to Alan Collins here. Pulling a good network together requires effort, sincerity, and time. Pulling a good network together requires effort, sincerity, and time. That's Alan Collins, author of Unwritten HR Rules. Keith Perazzi says the true currency of networking is not greed, but generosity. The true currency of networking is not greed, but generosity. I'm going to go ahead and let's pick on David again here.
Yeah, I was actually hoping you'd call on me for this. Let's go.
Awesome. Cool deal, man. So what do you think about this?
I think that's exactly right. I mean, people are always looking out for what's for them. So the more generous you are, and the more you're willing to help out other people, and the more that they see you as a contact they can do for something, then the more they're going to feel like they should reciprocate that generosity and actually help you out later down the line.
Awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Were you able to read any of those articles that I emailed you guys earlier in the week, David?
I haven't had time for anything. Sorry.
Wah, wah, wah. That's all right, man. No problem. I appreciate you commenting on this. So, just think about that just for a moment. You know, another good quote is this: your net worth will never exceed your net work. Your net worth will never exceed your net work. These are real quotes. What these are talking about is the relationships that you build drive the quality of your life more than any other thing. And these are very successful people. All right. So let me click back on our slide here. So what is networking? Networking is connecting or operating within a certain group of people who share common interest. Okay. So if you're a part of a charity that you volunteer at once a month and you go and you operate within that group, well, more than likely you are networking because you guys are sharing a common interest. Networking can also be sharing products or services between two or more individuals. If you have a company and your brother has a company and you guys need the same services, maybe you're sharing a virtual assistant, you know, that is part of networking. It's two people working together, either sharing a product or services. But the description of networking that we're going to use for tonight is this one. It's building professional relationships for the purpose of advancing a career. Building professional relationships for the purpose of advancing a career. It's not about getting LinkedIn contacts. It's not about getting business cards, collecting business cards at a career fair. Not to say that that's wrong, but that's not what this is all about. This is about building relationships, developing professional friendships with other people. Okay? And with that thought there, we're going to talk about, you know, the historic view of friendship. You know, we live in a very unique world where personal face-to-face interaction has been exchanged for now Facebook posts, for LinkedIn messages, for text messaging. There's not really that personal face-to-face interaction. I'm going to go ahead and let's bring up, let's see, Rocio. Okay. Rocio, you there? Oh, I just unmuted you. I think you muted yourself, so we're not going to pick on Rocio. We're going to pick on Michaela. There you go, Michaela, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So what do you think about that?
I'm shoving my face.
Say that again?
I said I'm shoving my face with food. You're going to have to hold on 2 seconds. I hadn't ate all day, guys. I was running. Okay, back to the question.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about do you think it's harder to build legitimate friendships today with social media, or is it easier?
Okay. I would say, okay, can you define legitimate? That's my problem. Because, I mean, I can sit here and I've moved all over the country, and I have legitimate friendships, and the only reason why they're still legitimate is because of social media. But at the same time, the personal connection will never quite be there. up to par that I would like it, correct? But at the same time, it might be non-existent if social media wasn't out and the way it is.
Have
Does that make sense?
Did you have that personal connection before you moved all over the country, or is that these are friendships that you developed because of social media?
Yes and no. I know two of them that it was straight off of Facebook. We were traveling, and hey, let's meet up. Never did, but we just stayed in contact. And I, had the same where I had met them. Might have been 2 days. I might have not had a personal connection, but I mean, I at least saw their face. So it's kind of both. But if I were to say yes, I can understand your point of it being harder to have a legitimate personal connection. If that makes sense.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for stopping your food there for us.
Sorry, I felt horrible. I said, please don't call me. I'm eating a potato right now, and you did, but it's okay.
Awesome. All right, so Rocio was trying to lift her hand back up. I don't know why you can't be unmuted there, Rocio. Do you have your phone on mute, I wonder? No, we'll have to come back to you in just a minute. So, make sure, Rocio, make sure you put in your audio pin. If you haven't put in that audio pin, that would keep you muted. Okay. So, anyways, the reason why I asked that question is for this reason. They say that real communication doesn't take place with words; it takes place with body language. Okay. So I can't remember the exact stat, but basically, communication through words and voice inflection is like 40% or something like that of real communication. The rest of it comes through body language. So when you're typing in messages on an email, and this is good to know for when you're going to work, right? When you're in the work world, when you're typing a message on an email, when you're sending a text message, when you're sending a Facebook post, they're only getting 40% of the communication that you're really trying to deliver to them. Now, as we look at some of these historic views of friendship, opposed to what today is, the international symbol of friendship is shaking hands. As a matter of fact, if you look at some older symbolisms of like Egypt or some of the ancient cultures, you will see that friendship, a lot of times they define friendship as being hand in hand. Okay? Being hand in hand. Another thing here is ancient Middle Eastern societies define friendship as being under obligation. Being under obligation. Now, you think that's an interesting description that I did too at that time. Now, you put these things two together. So it's shaking hands and it's being under obligation. What does that mean? I think it means this. It means that you have to be in close proximity with somebody else, face to face, and you have to be in a giving relationship. That's the only way you're under obligation is somebody gave to you first, and now you're obligated to give back to them, or you gave to them first, and now they feel obligated to give back to you. That's what it's talking about. It is very hard to do on social media, okay? George Washington said it this way, friendship is a plant of slow growth. It must stand the shocks of adversity before it deserves its appellation, and that just means title, the title of friendship. So friendship is a plant of slow growth. It must withstand the shocks of adversity before it deserves its appellation. And really what he's talking about there is intimate friendship. He's not just talking about just normal friendship, but intimate friendship. And it's very important for us to understand this dynamic when we take this into the networking world, especially if we're going to be developing relational networks or relational, professional relationships. There we go. So what are some ways what are the levels of relationships? So we all know that, hey, we have acquaintances, we have friendships, and then we have those intimate relationships. How are those defined? Well, if you look at our screen here, it says an acquaintance is somebody you just share knowledge with. Okay, it's just an exchange of ideas. It could be somebody that you met standing in line at Walmart, and you just happen to be talking about the latest game on TV or whatever. They're just an acquaintance at that point. A friendship now is where you share commonalities, okay? It goes beyond just sharing knowledge. Now it goes into sharing commonalities, all right? And I think David had another question here. Said, don't know how to raise my hand, but I'll comment. Okay, hang on just a second, David. I'll open up the mic for you there. So what do you
Hey,
got?
sorry that it was actually for the last conversation. I typed it a little bit ago.
Okay, I'm sorry
Um,
about that, man.
yeah, no problem.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, but I can add something to this. Re-ask the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Like, what?
I was going to ask you if you had something for this screen here, but did you want to add something to the last slide?
Oh no. I had typed that I guess before you started interjecting with what you had, and you pretty much covered what I was gonna say. I was gonna say with over social media, you can't really get the direct personal conversations, like seeing how they respond to what you say, and
Yeah,
visually, like I guess like interacting with them, like you said with the nonverbal communication aspect of it.
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for chiming in.
Yep.
So there are, I want you guys to think about relationships as drilling a well, okay? If you guys know anything about the oil field, you know that when a well is drilled, it goes through multiple layers. And that's how I want you to think about this, all right? So the first layer is just an acquaintance. It's just a sharing of knowledge with somebody. And if you want to take that relationship deeper, you have to take it to the next level, which is sharing commonalities. It's you're sharing life together, okay? You're going to games together. You're playing golf together. You're going to have coffee together. That is sharing commonalities. Now, if you want to take that one step deeper, you go to an intimate friendship or an intimate relationship, and that's in the sharing of secrets. That is very hard to do. As a matter of fact, uh, George Washington again said he was talking to his sons, and he wrote a letter to his son and said, "Be friendly to everybody, but only share secrets with a select few." So this is not somebody this is not, you don't want to be open with everybody. You want to be friendly with everybody, but only share secrets with a select few. I want us to focus on that second level of friendship, okay? For the purpose of building professional relationships. We want to take people from that acquaintance level and drill down one more level to the friendship level. We want to start sharing commonalities. This is where you're going to start really seeing an impact to your networking, okay? Now, there's a couple practices that you guys need to start implementing on a daily basis. By the way, has anybody, go ahead and either raise your hand or go ahead and raise your hand if you know how. It's that if you see your name, it's that first box to the left of your name is how you raise your hand there, okay? Or there should be a button that shows a hand raise. But did you guys, was anybody able to read those articles and see the task that I gave to everybody as far as being kind to people that cannot be kind back to you? Did anybody read that article? Look like you guys had a busy week. If you guys go back, I want you guys to go back and read those two posts that I posted and emailed to you guys earlier this week, because it talks about doing things for others that can't repay you back. And the reason why you do that is to develop sincerity. You have to, if sincerity is like a muscle, it's something you have to work out. And the only way you can work out sincerity is if you learn to be nice to people who can't repay you back. Okay? You can do this a couple ways. One is always be smiling. That is probably the most powerful thing that each person can do, is always be smiling. The other way is always be complimenting. Always be looking for ways to tell other people what a good job they're doing. I'm reminded of a story of Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you guys know who Zig Ziglar is, but he was called the master of motivation. All right, he was a well-known motivational speaker, and he just had this knack for making people feel good. And to give you an example, is if he was on a plane and the plane comes in for a landing and everybody's getting off, he would stop and he would talk to the stewardess and just say, man, how did you do it? You guys do such a great job in serving us today. I know you guys have been on flights all day long. You probably have a bunch of other flights to go on later on this afternoon. How do you guys do it? How do you guys take such good care of us? He would do that to everybody. He would do that to the mailman. He would do that to the garbage man. He would do that to just about everybody he met. These were people that would never repay him. But you know what? When he was around people that could repay him, he was very sincere because he had developed this muscle of sincerity. Okay? let's see, we had another question real quick. So, Rocio, let me unmute you. It looks like you had a question here. Still can't unmute you. All right, so Rocio, go ahead and type in your question, and we'll get back to you in just a second. I'm not sure why it's not letting me unmute you. It says that you need to put in your audio pin. So, go ahead and type in your question, and I'll answer it in just a minute here, okay? So I want us to focus on drilling down to that second layer of friendship. Now, I want you to look at this quote at the bottom there. It says, to grow a relationship, you must plant the seeds of friendliness. To grow a relationship, you must plant the seeds of friendliness. And I think you should do that with everybody. But, you have to be focused. This is a give kind of networking. Just like kind of David was saying there, right? You have to be willing to give, expect nothing in return, and watch those seeds come to life. Some seeds won't, some seeds will, and you can't worry about it. You just have to be in that giving relationship. One way we can do that is by working on our form. Now, if you guys were in that class that, go back. There we go. If you guys were in the class that Dominic and I were able to go and talk to, we went over this outline for you guys when it comes to networking and how to meet new people. As a matter of fact, most of you guys got this in an email, which I hope you guys were able to read before you went to the career fairs. But this is just a simple outline to help you guys when you're meeting new people to start drilling down beyond that acquaintance level right into friendship level. Okay? So if you're at a career fair and you're talking to that potential interviewer, you may not have a lot of time, but you can get off a couple of these questions. And what you're doing is you're looking for commonalities. So if you're asking them about their family and they say, hey, yeah, our family live in Houston, Texas, that might be a commonality. Oh, great, I lived in Houston for years. What part of Houston were you from? Oh, I was on the spring side. Oh, cool. I live in Tomball. We were there, we've been there for 14, 15 years. We love going to, the park over at this side near Tomball and Spring. And that's a great place. And that other person might go, oh, yeah, we used to go to that park all the time, too. That just took your relationship from an acquaintance to, it's not quite a friendship yet, but it's starting to develop those commonalities. And that's what this form does. It allows you to ask questions to find a commonality to start breaking down that barrier and getting into that friendship mode, okay? So we have family, which is, this can include family occupations, places that they've lived, marital status, kids they have, where they were born. You have occupation, obviously. By the way, family, this is a rule of thumb, but it's not a law, okay? This is just a principle, not a law. Most women will be more open to talk about their families than they will be about their occupation. Usually, unless they're single. Okay, that's just whatever it is. Women enjoy talking about their families, about their upbringing, that kind of stuff, unless they're single, more than they do their occupation. However, men, the number one question that men are asked, or men ask other men when they're meeting for the first time, is what do you do for work? That is the number one question that men get asked. So when you're out there and you're networking, you're trying to do this form, if you're talking to a lady, it's usually good to start with family. If you're talking to a man, it's usually good to start with occupation, although you want to use as many of these bullet points as you can, okay? So occupation is what they do for work, how long they've worked there, what they like best about their job, or what their dream job would be. A lot of people may not be happy at their job right now. So you might want to change the conversation from, what do you like best about your job to, okay, well, what would you rather be doing? All right. Next thing is recreation. That's pretty simple. What do you do for fun? You like hiking, camping, fishing, boating. You like playing volleyball, frisbee with friends. What are the things that you like to do? Now, this is usually a secondary topic. Usually occupation and family come first, and then recreation after that, okay? Now, the last topic here is mission. Now, you have to be careful with mission, all right? You can build a really good friendship on mission, and you also can destroy a potential friendship on mission. So whenever you talk about mission, make sure you know who your audience is. But this could be charities that people are part of, religious institutions, or politics. Okay? Again, you need to be very careful. Now, if you just happen to have the same political views as somebody else and you listen to the same talk show host or whatever, okay, you can talk about it. But you don't want to do that unless you know for sure what that is. If religion can be a touchy subject, but it's because mission is so personal to people, that is the fastest way to get from acquaintance to friendship. It's also the highest risk. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Mission is a high risk topic. So be careful. Know who your audience is. All right? Does anybody have any question on that? I'm going to wait just a second. We'll open up in just a second. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pick on Brianda here. Brianda, what do you think about that?
Like, what's the question? Like,
about mission being, it's one of the most, it's one of the easiest ways to drill down to the next layer of friendship, but it's also a good way to repulse people as well. So, have you had any kind of experience like that where you started talking to somebody about something like this and it actually turned into a bad conversation, or have you had the opposite true where you started talking to somebody about this and you guys actually became good friends?
yeah, like a lot of people believe strongly like in what they do believe. Like I'm just gonna give like a simple example, like Aggies and Longhorns. My best friend, he he's like a UTU fan, and it's like I always like poke fun at him, but I think he gets pretty angry about it. So yeah, and like that would be with politics too. Like if you're like in different political parties, like some people can
Yeah.
like feel really strongly about a certain subject, and you feel like the totally opposite of that. It's not gonna go well.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's
yeah,
that?
but then again, if you do feel like the same, like with the charities, like I volunteer for the Humane Society, and like I get along really well with like, the people who do, because we share the same interests with helping like the animals and stuff like that. And yeah, I find it really easy to like build friendships with them that
That's
way.
yeah. You always build the friendships real easy with mission. Because with mission, here's the other thing. Remember last week we talked about the two realities we had, physical and spiritual, right? Mission is a spiritual thing, and that's why it's a deeper relationship than anything else. Okay. Looks like Michaela had her hand up, so let's go ahead and bring Michaela on. What's up,
I was just gonna say, I was gonna give a quick example. At my interview, actually, the conversation was about how in the office there are some touchy subjects just because it is a risk management. They work with a lot with child abuse, senior citizen abuse, and they said, they do have a hotline where children can call in, so you have to kind of have a thick skin. And I guess, influenced that conversation and said how I had worked for the suicide prevention hotline at my local church in A&M.
Wow.
And then she asked if it was St. Mary Magdalene's, and I said yes, and it's a known Catholic church down there. And so it was kind of like you can't really ask what your religion is, in an interview. But she moseyed her way around it, and that's one of those examples where having the same religion kind of worked in my favor. But it was it's touchy to not, you can't outright say it, but it did find its little avenue within the conversation and worked in my favor. So
That's a
there's
great
my
point.
example.
And I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna bring Dominic on real fast because I know he's gonna want to say something here. So what do you have to tell them, Dominic, about this topic?
It's interesting because the more, well, I'll say this is what comes with age. You start going to mission a lot quicker because you realize, and I try to go there as soon as I can go there because I want to know. I want to know quickly. I don't want to develop only to be blown out. But it depends on my relationships. I had lunch last week with a guy that I met as a colleague in 1979, and we are totally opposite politically, but we're so much together on everything else, or on most things. But it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And so I agree with you, Jason. It's risky early on, and the safest way is to go through those steps.
Mm-hmm.
There will come a time when, and sometimes mission will always matter, but it's a piece of that relationship. And you could be together on politics and off on religious
Yep.
beliefs, and a lot of it comes and has to do. I tell people all the time, acceptance and tolerance and forgiveness cures a lot of what ails you.
Yeah.
And so it's just accepting people for who they are, because you got to remember you're different to them.
Yeah, that's a great point too. When you look at the term university, because you guys are mostly at a university, the actual university word means unified diversity. Unified diversity. We are all diverse, right? But that doesn't mean that we can't be unified in that diversity. That's actually what university means. So that's a great point, Dominic. Thanks.
Sure.
All right. So I hope that helps you up there as far as the form. I sent you guys an email, I think 2 weeks ago, that actually outlined that a little bit more. If you did not get it, go ahead and email me or send me a text message, and I'll be sure to forward that email on to you. But last thing here. This is probably the most important thing when it comes to developing relationships, and that is follow-up. People are busy, especially influential people. They're busy, okay? Write this down, memorize it, quote it, keep this in the forefront of your mind. Your fortune always lies in your ability to follow up. And I could add to that, follow up and follow through, okay? Your fortune always lies in your ability to follow up and follow through. The purpose of follow-up is to keep yourself top of mind. All right. Now, there are very specific ways that you need to follow up. And it's kind of like what David talked about earlier in one of the first couple slides there is, that giving relationship. That is always a great follow-up strategy. Give, give, give. As a matter of fact, before I had a chance to go up there and talk to you guys there at A&M, I'd been talking to Brian for, I think about 4 or 5 months prior to that. We had talked just at the end of the school year last year, and it was like, yeah, we're going to do this next week, or, hey, actually a couple weeks, and then it kind of got delayed. Hey, we're busy. It's going to be a couple months. Then it was, I went several weeks where I would send him an email, never got anything back, until finally, the week before I came and talked to you guys, I sent him an email. I can't remember what I was doing. I think I sent him an article or something, just say, hey, I thought you might be interested in this. And he emails me back saying, man, I'm glad you kept following up, because we're in a position now where we can actually bring you guys up and have you guys talk to these students. But if I had left off and not followed up at all, we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight. Most of you. It took me literally 4 months of consistent, not bugging. I wasn't emailing them every day. I wasn't emailing them every week even. I think I'd email them about once every week and a half to 2 weeks, usually. All right, so I probably followed up with him 6 times before we finally said, no, more than that. It was probably 8 times before he came back and said, hey, we're ready for you guys to come up here and talk to our students. So remember that. Follow-up doesn't mean that, hey, I'm going to send them one email. Doesn't mean I'm going to send them one text message. Doesn't mean I'm going to give them one phone call. You might have to do this consistently. And if you're going to do it, be sure you're giving them something. Okay? Let me give you an example of how you can follow up with a recruiter at a career fair. So let's say you're going to the career fair and you talk to somebody and you're really interested in this job, and you did the proper form, right? You asked them about their family, occupation, recreation, and mission. Maybe not their mission at that time, but their family, occupation, and recreation. And you found some commonalities. Let's say you both you guys like mountain biking, okay? So you say, man, thanks for talking to me today. I got your card here. I'll be sure to keep in touch and let me know if you guys have an opening. As soon as you get the chance, the first thing you should do, number one, is you should try to find them on LinkedIn and send them a connection. What that does is that puts your face back in front of them. That's a form of follow-up. Just send them an invite. The next thing you could do is just send them an email. After you invite them on LinkedIn, send them an email. It's like, hey, so-and-so, this is David from the career fair. We talked last week about the career fair, and we were talking about mountain biking. I just want to say I really enjoyed our conversation. Would love to talk to you further about that kind of stuff. Feel free to keep in contact. That's it. It might have been about business, it might not have been. If they had an opening, you would say, hey, I really enjoyed talking about biking. Really hope that we can talk more about that. By the way, I just want to let you know that I left my resume there with you. If you want me to do, if you need anything else from me, feel free to email me or call me or contact me in any way that's easiest for you. That's a second form of follow-up. Another form of follow-up would be, hey, you saw this cool little event for mountain bikers that's going to be in their area. And so you type them an email and say, hey, so-and-so, hey, this is David from the career fair. We were talking about mountain biking. I really enjoyed our conversation. By the way, I didn't know. I saw this event that's in your area coming up next month, and I thought you might like to have a chance to take a look at it. And that's it. This is a give mentality. All right. You're not just going there saying, hey, have you looked at my resume yet? Hey, have you guys hired anybody yet? Hey, I'm still waiting for a job. Have you guys decided on anything yet? You want to be in a give mode. The reason being is if they don't have a position for you, but you're in that give mentality, remember we talked about earlier about being under obligation? People tend to feel obligated to do for somebody that's been doing for them. Okay? I'm going to send you guys a video on this week. I want you guys to watch it. But people tend to feel obligated to do something for other people that have been doing stuff for them. So they might not have a position, but you know what their friend down the road does? And they said, you know what? You need to go talk to this guy. So always follow up. People are busy. You may have to follow up 8 to 12 times before they respond. Just do it. Just do it. Okay? We're going to go ahead and open up the lines. Or real quick, let's review, and then we're going to open up the lines here and talk about that. So just to review, pulling a good network together requires effort, sincerity, and time. Ancient Semitic people define relations as being under obligation. Being under obligation means a give relationship. 3 levels of relationships are acquaintances, friendships, and then intimacy. And then your fortune always lies in your ability to follow up. All right, let's go ahead and open up the lines here. So let's see, who haven't we picked up? Tahira. Hey, Tahira, what did you think about that? This topic tonight? Are you there, Tahira?
Hey, yes. What
So
did
what's
you
your
ask
thoughts
me?
about this?
Hello?
Yep.
Can you repeat your question?
I said, what's your thoughts on this lesson time? What stuck out to you?
For me, it's like the way you are saying that I should keep sending them emails and LinkedIn. Actually, I've been doing this thing for a long time, the thing that you are mentioning over here. And for me, I mean, that I now know several people through networking this way that you have already mentioned. Maybe not something like after 5-6 times, I just give up on them because sometimes they do not respond and sometimes their response is so concise. It seems like they just do not want to stay in touch with you. So then after 5-6 emails and talking to them on the phone, then I give up. It happened with me several times, especially in the last couple of years. I will say from 2013 till now. So
Let me ask you this, Tahira. What is the nature of
yeah.
those emails? Are they, hey, I'm following up on the position you guys had open?
No, not always like that. Because what I do at least I can do this thing that after 1 or 2 messages, I somehow was able to convince people to talk to me on phone. So they do talk to me, and sometimes we exchange things, some articles, something like just like you refer me a book. Sometimes people refer me books, or sometimes they will say, okay, go through this thing and read this thing, or if you are doing research on this thing, maybe this article will be a good one, or if you are doing research in this area, you like this one, so why don't you go and read those articles? It is this type of connection. But like it did not. I wanted a job, so it didn't result in a job. So that's why I was quite disappointed.
Yeah.
To hear the thing, go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead, Dominic.
I mean, the thing about these relationships, they may not think about it this way. It may not result in a job right now,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and that puts it into a different perspective. It's like I mentioned earlier about the objective of the interview is to get the offer. Even if you turn them down, a lot of times you're top of mind when another position comes up. And so, some of this sowing these seeds, so to speak, are not always short-term gains. They're more
Right.
long-term gains. And it clearly, I will tell you all the work that Jason put into the calls with Brian and with another client that we're dealing with. The good news that we had that I think it is important to know is we had a lot of positive feedback, which it certainly makes it easier to follow up, but nonetheless, it still takes the tenacity to do it. And the flip side to that is, and Jason has mentioned this as well, is getting creative. And I'll give you an example. I have a nephew who's in sales, so contacting cold calls are his deal. And he told me about one last week that I thought was pretty amazing. He had called to make a sales call on the phone. The guy talked to him, short, curt, hung up on him. I mean, just hung up on him. So Joey, my nephew, was in the area. He goes to the building, walks in, sees, I guess, the receptionist and says, I understand Michael's office is down this hall. I can't remember if he's on the left or the right. He had never been there before, right? The lady says he's on the right. He walks in. The guy's in his office, and he said, hey, I just wanted to stop by and meet the man who hung up on me because that's never happened to me before. So, and he got a job wreck. I mean, they ordered and rented some equipment from him because at that point the guy just felt so bad and said, I was just in a hurry. I am so sorry. So some of it is creativity.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is persistence.
Yeah. 8 to 12 times. Don't forget that. David, I know you had a question. Go ahead and ask your question there, man.
Yeah, I had typed it in there, but I'll just say so you were talking about building or getting those the conversation going or whatever with them and learning all the, I guess, intimate friendship type stuff about them so that you can have a way to follow up. What about areas or times like right now where I didn't know that and I didn't do that yet? What's
Mm-hmm.
the best way to, I guess, follow up to that if you don't have anything to go on with like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. There's a couple ways you can do it. One is you need to go see if you can find them on LinkedIn right away. Okay? LinkedIn is going to have a lot of information about that person already. All right. Now, you want to get this information in person as much as possible. But if you don't get it, go to see if you can find them on LinkedIn. I know a guy, what he would do is in the same situation here, if he met somebody, let's say at a networking event, but they really couldn't talk and they just kind of exchanged business cards, he would go immediately to LinkedIn, send that person an invite, and he would do as much research as he could about that profile and see, what kind of groups that person was in, where they may have worked in the past. So if they worked in maybe Chicago and he happened to be from Chicago, then he can get that little bit of information. What kind of groups they're a part of on LinkedIn. So, obviously if they're a part of a group, then I'm part of a group, you send that LinkedIn invite, and the next follow-up is, hey, I know, we met last week at the networking event. I found you here on LinkedIn. I happen to notice you're part of this group. I just want to say, man, I'm part of this group too. That's awesome. Something like that. You got to get a little bit creative. The other thing is, you can just do it the old-fashioned way and just send them a thank you note for meeting you. Hey, this is David. We met last week at the career fair. We might have talked about XYZ that your company had open. I just want to let you know I really appreciate what you were doing there, and just want to send you a thank you note for talking to me, right? Then maybe a couple days or a week or two later, if you find their number or something like that, you just call them up. Hey, this is David Ramirez. We talked a couple weeks ago at the career fair. I just want to touch base with you and let you know that I'm still looking. And by the way, I noticed here on your LinkedIn profile, you had this. I was just curious, how long did you live in the city or something like that? Does that make sense, David?
It does, yeah, it does. So pretty much, if you didn't extract it from them in person, then stalk them until you find something.
That is a good way. You can say it that way.
Park outside their house and watch them.
Well, here's the other thing, David, is on LinkedIn, a lot of times you can tell if one of your friends happen to know them or happen to work for the same company that they work at, right? So if you happen to know, hey, say your buddy Joe works at the same company or happens to know them because they worked at the same company 5 years ago, you can now get Joe involved and say, hey, Joe, have so-and-so? Oh, yeah, I know so-and-so. I was curious. I was trying to get this job. What can you tell me about this person? Right?
Yeah.
So there's different ways you can go about it. It's always easiest to do it then and there on the spot. But if you can't, just try to get as creative as you can. And just make a note in your mind, hey, the next time I do this, I'm going to try to do the best I can to find some kind of commonality that gives me some ammunition to follow up next week.
And I have a question. Have you guys set up a profile on LinkedIn yet?
Yeah.
Everybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
We're planning on doing that this week.
You guys should connect with Jason and I. There's a lot of people in there.
Yeah. You guys should, and I know a lot of, I know Dominic does too. We have a lot of HR contacts and stuff in there, and as we get to know you guys a little bit better, we'll be able to help point you guys in those directions as well. So you guys need to, as best you can, get send us a invite connection. So.
Hello?
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Have anything to add here?
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a lot of noise. I couldn't hear you for a second. That's all right.
Yeah, I was trying to see who that was.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody here. Okay, so action steps for this week. You guys were finally able to get to talk to Dominic a little bit tonight. The hardest part of building a network is starting. So I want you guys to initiate a conversation with 3 people that you don't know. I don't care if it's in your classes. I don't care if it's at a temporary job that you have. I don't care if it's your dorm. 3 people that you don't know using the 4 methodology. All right? Then I want each of you to write down one interesting thing you found out about each one of those people. Okay? Next thing, being nice to everyone you know is important for building a network. However, it is important to stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone. Last week, you guys were needing to write down the 3 wisest people you knew. This week, I want you to call Dominic, and I want you to start developing a plan to reach out to those people. All right? Now, I'll tell you a personal experience. 150 Connect would not be available if I had not kept in contact with everybody at my former job. All right? I kept in contact with everybody. And that included people that were outside my pay grade. All right? Dominic is one of them. We have Bill Roby is another one, and Will Wilhite is another one. They all came. I worked with each person at one time or another. All right? These are people that I respected. These are people that I considered to be outside my comfort zone. All right? But these are people that I knew that first, I knew their personalities and their character, number one, and I also knew they were very helpful and they could help me develop what I was trying to develop here. And so I reached out each one of them. All right, that was outside my comfort zone. I want you guys to sit down with Dominic sometime this week, give him a phone call, and start talking about ways that you can reach out to the 3 people that are outside your comfort zone to start to build building those relationships. Finally, following up is an art as much as it is a skill. Find a way to establish a secondary line of connection with the people you meet this week. Options can be email, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Then based on what you learn about them while you form them, try to share a picture, article, and upcoming event that they might be interested in. All right? That is your action steps for this week. I'm going to head and open up the mics one more time. Does anybody else have any questions before we shut down for the night?
Let me ask one. I have a question for them. Is there anything that you guys would like to hear that we haven't covered along the topics that we're bringing up and discussing that would be more helpful that we may have overlooked?
Yeah.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know if it's like open lines. I was just gonna say, I know Jason, we kind of talked about it, but I guess personally, I guess just because it's my next step, networking within the company would be a nice topic to shoot out. I mean, I know just personally because of me, that's kind of my next step, but we'll all get there eventually, so it's kind of nice now moving from networking, find a job, and networking within the company to maintain valuable relationships and promote ourselves farther within that company.
McKenna, I want you to set up a time with Dominic this week if you can.
Or well, when we say this week, I mean, understand tomorrow's Friday, folks. So anytime, that's okay. Anytime next week, given what I've already heard from you guys, you may not be able to do it, but try to set some time next week.
Okay.
And, you know, if you want to text me about setting up a time that works for you, you know, we can do that.
Good. Will do.
Yeah. And the cool thing, Michaela, too, is you're going to use a lot of the same strategies here to network with people in your office. It's going to be people you don't know anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. I mean, it'll be easy to find 3 people I don't know. I'm going to know absolutely no one, so.
But you need to talk to people because there's some inner office politics that you might need to find out first and that stuff. So it is a little bit different, although the principles are the same, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions that anybody has, just jump in there and speak up.
Because there, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in this open mic discussion, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be on this topic.
Right. Yeah, did anybody
I have something to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the, being kind to people and, like, that's how you network. For, like, ever since I can remember, I remember working at the flea market, and one of the things that I learned is that it's, like, super important to be kind to the people that are around you that are working on, like, the stand next to you. I think this applies to just everything because my mom would always tell me, people are always going to be mean to you. You're young, the adults might be mean to you. Like even if you work like at a restaurant or like a company, they're gonna maybe mean mug you or something. But the thing that you should do is always like offer them something. Like for us, what we would do, the simplest thing we could do, we would sell bread. It's like a Mexican type of bread, and so we would see like a lady on a stand, if she was like being mean or like just showing mean faces. I don't know if you guys could picture that. But my mom would go over and give her a piece of bread of what we were selling, and like instantly her face would just change. She would be so friendly, and she was just like just super sweet to us. She would also offer us some of whatever she was selling, like for free, and like that's how we build connections within the flea market community. And then whenever it was time for like, because we had a food stand, so the inspectors would come like randomly or throughout the year, and so we would build connections based on those relationships that we had built throughout the year or time. So like there was one time where the inspectors were coming and my mom wasn't there, but they already had a relationship. That the lady came over and told us, hey, the inspectors are here. They're in the flea market on the front, so just be aware and have everything in order and stuff. And I mean, I was just so grateful for that, about the relationships that were built through a piece of bread that is like worth nothing. So
You know
that's
what?
my
See, what you guys were doing is you were just planting seeds of friendliness.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is typically you always get back more than what you planted.
yes.
And I will make one other comment, if I could, about when you do go to work. Michaela, this is going to be true to you, for you, since you're jumping into it pretty quickly. Those acts of kindness to everybody are important, because you never know who's going to be your boss. Because some people will rise meteorically, and I have encountered that several times. And I will tell you guys, the second job I ever had, I worked at a bank, and there was a lady I worked with, and I went in to ask her a question, and I don't know if I caught her on a bad day. I don't know what happened, but she just chewed me out. And I had told her, I said, Eleanor, I have never been talked to that way by a coworker. And I just said it. It just rolled off my tongue. The next thing I said was, because you never know who your boss is going to be. A year later, Eleanor reported to me. And it happens, folks. It happens.
It does. There's a great quote. Be nice to everybody as you climb up the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Meet them on your way back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll treat you a lot nicer.
That's right. So
yeah.
Awesome. That's good stuff, Rocio. I appreciate you jumping in there with that. Anybody else? Anything anybody wants to add? Cool deal. Well, as I said, guys, you guys heard from Dominic for the first time tonight. I was hoping you guys could hear from him last week, but hopefully you guys are a little bit more familiar with him. Please give him a call. He is a valuable source of information. He has a lot of knowledge about what you guys are getting ready to go through. You need to take advantage of that as much as possible. So go ahead and make sure you have your action steps for this next week. Remember, everything we did with you guys tonight is just knowledge. It doesn't become beneficial to you till you start putting some action steps behind it. So go ahead and do this stuff. Go ahead and start making those conversations with people. Start, thinking about how you're going to contact the 3 wisest people in your life, and really start following up with people. When you start developing these habits, the sooner you develop these habits, the quicker you're going to become good at it, and the quicker this stuff is going to take off. So please, please, please take this stuff seriously. And with that, if you guys have any questions for me this week, each one of you have my cell phone and my email. If you have any questions about material or anything that we're going to be covering in the next couple weeks, feel free to text me, call me. If you guys have any career-based questions you have, go ahead and give Dominic a call there. So with that, I hope you guys have a great night, and we will see y'all next week.
Have a great weekend, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.